We are seeing some positive signs for a vaccine for COVID-19 within the year. The World Health Organization's latest report shows that 18 potential vaccines are in human trials and 129 are in preclinical phases. And one of the vaccines they consider a front runner is made here in the U.S. That would be the vaccine from the biotech company Moderna. They're working with the National Institutes of Health, planning to start the third phase of trials this month with 30,000 volunteers. About 600 people in different age groups were part of phase 2.
And it really was kind of an easy process. It took about 20 minutes to get the vaccine because it came frozen. And they came in with a researcher and a couple of nurses and received it. And they kind of monitored me for about an hour just to make sure there wasn't any immediate reaction. And then I received the second part a month later.
If all goes well, Moderna's goal is to have millions of doses ready by early 2021. Pfizer just announced strong results from its initial phase 1 and 2 trials. So that means they could move on to their next phase with 30,000 volunteers in the next few weeks.
Our first vaccine candidate is eliciting antibody levels to neutralize the virus that is equivalent to or better than what you see in people who have had COVID-19.
Oxford University's trials are the furthest along. They're already in phase 3. If researchers decide their vaccine is safe and effective, they could have emergency doses of it ready as early as October. But getting the vaccine is only one step in finding an end to the pandemic.
Developing safe and effective vaccines isn't the only challenge. We need to have enough supply and potentially hundreds of millions of Americans willing to get vaccinated in order to achieve herd immunity.
The FDA has said if researchers can show a vaccine is safe and at least 50% effective, they'll likely approve it for use.
FDA's job is to assess the data and the science behind these vaccines, what comes out of the clinical trials. And we will look at those data and we will make the best decision we can for the American people on the safety and the efficacy of that vaccine.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's cautiously optimistic that we'll at least know how effective a vaccine could be sometime this winter or early next year. But the World Health Organization says that the question after that will be determining whether the scale of the production of those vaccines will be enough to actually start vaccinating people. So this morning, the U.S. Mint has a job for you. They want you to spend your spare change. And that's because COVID-19 has apparently ruined another thing, and that is the circulation of coins in the United States. Check it out.
What's happened is that with the partial closure of the economy, the flow of coins through the economy has it's kind of stopped.
That's Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell back in June. He says because of businesses like laundromats, banks, and restaurants closing, people aren't spending their coins, so there haven't been as many in circulation. And a lot of places aren't accepting cash right now to limit touching things. Kroger even stopped giving people coins back as change if they pay with cash. Instead, they'll put the amount of change on your loyalty card or let you donate it. The U.S. Mint says most of the coins put into circulation come from retail and third-party coin processors. They say enough coins exist, but because they aren't being used right now, they may not be ready when they're needed.
So their staff, they were on their pandemic plan, so their staff wasn't there to be able to produce the normal allotment, and it really kind of created that perfect coin storm.
The Mint says the cash is the only form of payment for millions of people, and cash transactions rely on coins to make change. So they're asking you to spend your coins, deposit them, or exchange them, saying that the coin problem can be solved with each of us doing our part. But the Mint says they're doing their part too. They say since mid-June, they've been operating at full capacity, minting almost 1.6 billion coins in June alone. They expect to have 1.65 billion coins per month for the rest of the year. You can compare that to last year when the Mint said they produced about 1 billion coins each month. So they're producing more coins than normal, but they still need your help getting those coins back into circulation. And in the meantime, economists say this could change the way America does business in the future.
I think what this is all going to do is it's going to further that process along, and we're going to see that cash transactions account for a much smaller proportion of overall transactions. That's something that was going to happen anyway. It's just going to speed it up.
So the Federal Reserve is asking banks to only order the bare minimum of coins that they need, and they want to make those banks have it easier for people to deposit their spare change as well. And one bank in Wisconsin took that challenge and upped the ante. So they started offering this promotion where people brought in $100 worth of change, they'd give them an extra $5 back. So pretty cool there. Even though COVID-19 cut a week out of this year's session, lawmakers in Kentucky passed 124 new bills. Many of them took effect in April, but a handful of them start this week. The photo ID bill goes into effect on Wednesday, and it'll be used for the first time in the November election. That's the law that will require voters to show a photo ID at the polls. If you don't have one, though, you can still vote if you explain why you don't have one and prove you're qualified to vote.
It's scandalous that we have second-class citizens in our state who can't perform basic life functions because they don't have a photo ID due to its cost.
Another bill closes a loophole in the sex offender registry that right now doesn't require those convicted of sex trafficking someone over 18 to register as a sex offender.
I think it's more prevalent than you realize, and I think that we have several victims out there that don't even realize that they're a victim of this process.
It'll also require a national anti-human trafficking hotline number to be advertised in airports, train stations, and bus stops. Starting Wednesday, a new law will let veterinarians report to authorities if they find that an animal they're caring for has been abused. Right now, they aren't allowed to do that unless the animal's owner gives them permission or they're under a court order. And distillers, wineries, and breweries will be able to start shipping directly to people both in and out of Kentucky.
This is really a good news story for the consumers in Kentucky. It gives them access to products out of state that they otherwise might not have.
There are limits on how much they can ship each month, and they can't ship to places where the local laws don't allow selling alcohol. The packages have to be signed by someone 21 or older. Now, one thing to know is that you probably won't be able to get alcohol shipped to your door right away. The Kentucky Distillers Association tells us that state agencies like the Departments of Revenue and Alcohol Beverage Control have to take some additional steps to create the necessary licenses and forms to be able to get everything squared away here. So their goal is to start shipping by early October.